Welcome to Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by, in first, Adam, Brian, Sensual Goat, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So, welcome one and all.
Let's get it on.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Discord server.
That was a very effeminate hello.
Good morning.
It was a very feminine hello from Sensual Goat. Well, hello. We would call that camp. That's the word we would use. Old 1930s, 40s homosexual slang. Very camp, Sensual Goat. Well, hello to you too. Shall we do the housekeeping? Yes, we shall.
No.
Or maybe not. Maybe Neil will interrupt before we even start. It's always the same old thing here at Flat Earth Debate. But everyone's here with a bit of familiarity. I'm sure there's people in the audience that love it because we are regular. Like fibre-eating people that we are.
Well, I was just doing my my effeminate hello. Hello.
Hello. Very nice to be here. I'm glad we're all joining in. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere?
You sound like serial killers.
Oh,
You sound like.
you had to lower the tone. You had to insult me and call me a serial killer, didn't you, Brian? Thank you very much.
Well, you don't sound effeminate. You don't even sound camp, and you don't sound gay. You just sound like serial killers.
Sound terrifying. Thanks so much. Yeah, you're not effeminate. You're not camp. You're terrifying. Well, isn't that wonderful? Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge in the meantime? Any evidence of a physical geometric? No, go on.
You're joking me.
No, I'm not joking. It's housekeeping.
The first thing they do with every single observation that ever happens is, as a standard, they add 7/6. Right? Terrestrial nonsense. Terrestrial single medium non-refraction. And that's just the starting point. They then add to that as much as they need to. So, how could there be evidence of what you're asking for when even they deny it? Do you know what I mean? They're living on an expanding balloon. That's what they think they're living on. They're not. There's no geometry. There's no globe geometry. That doesn't exist. Look, it's to say it doesn't exist is not true. There is a geometry, but there's no measurement of any kind of any globe. It's just these calculations that they basically you say, I got this observation and I was at this height and the horizon appeared to be that far away because there was an island that far away. And they do all their calculations, they come up with whatever, 19/6R. Right? You know what I mean? It's a nothing. They don't have anything. It's like immediately they have to forego their geometry when it comes to any observation in history ever. That's why they always add 7/6. Always adding 7/6. And they're going to add to that because 7/6 is like no horizons hardly ever are going to match a 7/6 distance. You know what I mean? It's not immediately they deny their own geometry. Immediately. And try their best to expand that balloon to somehow match reality. And even at that, what they're talking about is not an horizon and it'll be below surface level. So no, there's absolutely no evidence for this nonsense you're asking for evidence for.
But you asked me why I would ask for it, and I can answer that easily. Because what you've just offered in response, and legitimate in every respect, I've nothing to disagree with in what you've just said, Brian. I couldn't agree with you more, in fact. But there's a veritable goldmine of beautiful, flat earth proving facts that you utilised on the way to denouncement of the globe earth that isn't getting measured. But you did talk about several measurements, like getting your height, talking about horizons, all of which are flat earth prerequisites that I can easily extract flat earth proof from. When I ask my opponent for proof of earth curvature, they won't have it, but I can extract out flat earth proof from what they give me in response when they believe they've got something that affirms their curve. We debunked it in 2020. You know it, I know it.
Well, you see, the thing about it is, for them to do anything, they need someone to come along with an observation and then give them the details of the viewer height and the distance, the apparent distance to the horizon, because it can only be an apparent distance because the horizon has no distance. So, the horizon was near an oil rig that's 8 miles away, and I was at 12-foot elevation above sea level. So, right, so then they can start working with that. Other than that, all they can do is bring someone out on a boat where they can't see land anymore and say, because they're this high above the water, that means that the horizon is X distance away. And they'll even add 7/6 to that one, even though that...
Well, 7/6 what? That was another part of the gold mine.
7/6. Sorry?
I was just saying, when I said there was a gold mine, I forgot to add that on. I just couldn't remember it while I was going through the list. I hadn't written anything down. But yeah, there was another one in there, and that was it. You said 7/6 of a radius value that I can extract a flat earth proof also when it comes to the measurement that's utilised to acquire radius. There might be 2 different ways, or 3 different ways, that they go in terms of the story that they put alongside their acquisition of an R value by way of earth measurement. But each and every one of those acquisitions in their mind of an earth measurement that gives them a radius value for their 7/6 that you're denouncing. I was about to say appealing to. It's not you appealing to it, though. You're denouncing it in your discussions, rightly so. But that radius value is still a veritable goldmine of flat earth proof, is it not, Brian?
7/6, like, to even come up with that calculation, you have to make measurements off a flat earth, of a flat plane. Even Andrew Thomas Young states that.
There we go.
Remember what? What?
I'm just agreeing. I'm just saying, yeah, there you go. You're already smiling along with me because you know all roads lead to a flat earth, and every one of these particular examples that you're going to detail will require quite a few flat earth prerequisites. So while I can hear the disdain in your voice for my question, surely you can now, by response from me and being asked, why would you ask such a question? Obviously not. But there's plenty of flat earth proofs to be extrapolated out from the response that is potential when asking for any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the earth.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why they say the geometric globe's edge is only in the maths. Because that's where all the globe is and everything connected to it. It just exists in maths. It doesn't exist in measurement. I know measurement is, you're using maths in measurement, but measurement is a measurement and it's, involving maths. Whereas what they have is just involves maths, no measurement, except for the flat out measurements that they must hijack. But we look past that. Other than that, they have, basically a mathematical religion. Basically, that's what they have, isn't it? A religion based on maths. I don't know.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, there's a pre-assumption that it's happening, and that's why the equator is wider than... Oh, no, hang on. Yeah, I was going to say wider than the poles, but we don't have poles. We only have one pole. So well, there is no wider.
We might be wanting to reference this back to the guy we're going to be covering today, which is Dave McKeegan. So this particular request has come from Craig, who's currently working on a load of crappy old microphones that I've put in front of him, and he's been kind enough to actually go through them, make them work, hopefully. He's got one in front of him as we speak, although he's not necessarily working on it as we speak. He is definitely working on my behalf currently with crap that I'm selling to keep the mortgage paid, which is microphones, and hopefully polishing up some dog turds is being repaid in this instance by me covering the video he wanted to cover when moaning that nobody responded to him pointing this out in Master B. So did anybody else pick up on this when Craig put in Dave McKeegan's video?
Does it involve flight?
Yes.
I haven't watched it, but I presumed we were going to end up covering. I thought we'd end up covering it on QE Live on Tuesday, but there was no QE Live.
No, indeed. But well, that's a good part to disclaim this, right? So there's going to be various bits that I've already scrubbed through in the pre-show. You can see me at the very beginning just figuring out which bits I wanted to cover, because I have been shown the various highlights of this by Craig yesterday when I was in his shop talking microphones, or moreover, he was working on cables and working on microphones, telling me which parts to order, things of that nature for the various projects, let's call them. But yeah, so I'd say I haven't watched this, I'm not privy to this, I don't know what goes on in this. I do actually know, or I've watched it for 25-30 seconds and then had a quick discussion with Craig Senior and Junior about what goes on in this video and their general reaction to it. So I'm more than happy to just get straight into it, unless anybody else has got anything that they wanted to add. What I have done is added Dave McKeegan's video to our live stream chat. So those of you who are watching, there's 50 something, I can't see the number, let's have a look, people watching, but go along to Dave's video and just leave a polite comment that says at Nathan Oakley 1987. Just allude to the fact that we have covered his video so he knows that we've responded to him. I don't fully grasp what point I'm going to be making here because it wasn't necessarily in the forefront of my mind while I'm worrying about what's been rattling along in my Beatles mic. It's not rattling anymore, thank God. Craig's awesome. But that was what was on my mind, as opposed to the video that Craig was also showing me. So this is the problem when I'm in front of Craig. It's normally because I'm stressing about something that's broken, and he's just a normal guy that wants to talk to me about what I do. And normally my 100% focus is on whatever the task in hand is, because I don't like broken stuff, and he's the man to resolve that issue. In this case, a thing slightly loose in a Beatles mic. You're like, oh, bloody hell, it's the end of the world. But he wanted to just show me this video, and he's like, why hasn't anybody responded in Master B? I've put it in, I've pointed out this, and then he's scrubbed through to this particular part of the video. But that's roughly where we're going to begin, in case anybody wants to know why I haven't covered the first 6 minutes, because there's poignant stuff. The other thing to highlight in response to what Brian's just said about QE covering this, a lot of it was actually responding to Wolfie, and that has been done on QE. So I've scrubbed past the bits where he just references back to Wolfie, and we're just going to get into his claims. So go ahead, whoever that was.
Oh, I was just saying no of it's the mind. So you're not going to cover the video, only bits of it.
I'm not even going to dignify that with an answer.
Stays consistent.
Okay.
And plotted over time, this would show no change in pitch. Now, this is what Wolfie was explaining in the video with Will, but some flat earthers have been trying to pull that argument apart by going after how they think artificial horizons work to figure out where horizontal is.
Pause a second. Straight away. No, not that how we think they work, how they actually work, right? And we have been trying to pull that argument apart. That is not an argument. That is a ridiculous position put forth by someone who the people who work in the same industry as him would laugh at. Right? Horizontal is not changing its own orientation in relation to itself. You can't go from one orientation to another without changing pitch. Right? And even if you did have an artificial horizon that did this crazy thing, that has no bearing on the plane. The plane does not follow the artificial horizon. It's purely a mechanical reference for the pilot. The plane doesn't follow it, and autopilot doesn't
Stop
follow
a second. What does it follow? Because you said it can't change with respect, or it's horizontal. Your horizontal, as they're describing it, can't change. And you're saying no, your pitch is with respect to. Well, let's not lead you. What does pitch reference?
Pitch is in relation to horizontal, right? They're trying to claim that horizontal is changing its own orientation in relation to itself. It's now, even if the zero on the attitude indicator was changing, right? If the Earth was a globe, the plane still couldn't fly right, as they do, because there's no mechanism, whether it be software or otherwise, for the plane to follow what the gyro is doing.
Now, let me ask you perfect. Let me ask you
Yeah.
another question. If the horizontal was to change, as they are asserting it does, how would that description be detailed, Brian?
Well, the thing about it is, what they're claiming is they're trying to avoid there being any change in pitch. What they're trying to claim is that the horizontal is changing, so the pitch is not changing. What they don't realize is that what would happen is if the zero did change, the pitch of the plane would increase above the zero, because the plane would already have a 3-degree, let's say on average, a cruising speed, 3-degree pitch above the zero. If the zero started going down, trying to go around the globe, the pitch would increase because the plane would have to be manually following it. Someone would have to be there, constantly making these little adjustments.
Sure.
It would it can't happen. What I'm saying is, what they're claiming can't happen. Now,
let me just add it in. If you're going to describe that change, in quotes as you call it, then you'd need a horizontal to describe that change from. Whereas we're both correct here, but I'm just saying you phrased it. They need to deviate the horizontal from horizontal. Yeah. If they're going to have a change, you need a reference to have the deviation described from. And we do. It's called horizontal, but it's axiomatic. They're trying to position this like it's an argument. It's not. Well said, Brian.
Yeah, it's not an argument. And more to the point, it's not, what they're trying to say, right? They're not taking the plane into account. If the gyro, right, if the gyro in the attitude indicator starts going 40 and the zero starts changing, does the plane then suddenly start following the gyro? No, it doesn't. The gyro is just a mechanical device that creates a reference. So if the gyro starts doing some other nonsense and the zero on the attitude indicator starts changing, unless there's a pilot sitting there constantly following this and trying to constantly keep up with what the zero is doing, right? The plane won't change. What will happen is there'll actually be an increase above the zero. It won't be following it. That's my point. It can't do what they are talking about. Cannot happen under the circumstances that we have in reality. And they think it's an argument. And as you said, Nathan, they're literally trying to debunk an axiom in a way without debunking it. They're trying to say horizontal is still horizontal, even if it's at a different pitch to horizontal half an hour ago. That's how stupid it is.
Because to debunk this axiom, that's to say to have the axiomatic principle of horizontal change, well, how are you going to describe that change? Oh, well, you'd need something axiomatically tied to have it deviate from. What could that be? Well, that would be the horizontal. Oh, I see. So you can describe how much horizontal changes because of its respect to horizontal. Like you said, Brian, they need to bend the horizontal with respect to the horizontal. It's ludicrous.
Making money? Well, initiate an automated trading app with just a click. Here you can see the first.
If you claim to have an up and down and you're sitting on the runway, you've got your gyros running, you got your HUG set, you got your horizontal set now. When you take off of that runway, you automatically have to have another horizontal if you're on a globe. Every centimeter you move would be a new horizontal.
Yeah, that's not strictly. I mean, he's helping them along. He's trying to help them. He's trying to, empathise too much by saying you can have new horizontals. So he's phrasing it on their behalf in a way that is defying the axiom. No. To have a new horizontal, you're defying the axiom of horizontal, because for it to be new, that's to say deviating, what does it deviate from? Horizontal. So you must have this axiomatically tied to the principle to describe the change. So it doesn't work, but this is what flat earthers help people with, right? Cognitively, that people like Flatso want to communicate with globetards. So they empathetically phrase this on their behalf in a way that's almost cognizant. Is that the correct word? It's just like, shouldn't moan at Flatso. I mean, it's not his fault. He's just too empathetic. Was someone trying to get something?
Yeah, but sorry. No, when I said he's not correct, he's correct in what he says about every centimetre, every inch, right, along the surface of the globe, right, there's a new tangent, because it's a tangent is tangent to a circle or a sphere at one point. So he's 100% correct. At every point along the surface of that globe, there'll be a new tangent made, right? But none of those will be horizontal. Horizontal, this is the main thing. Horizontal doesn't exist in their paradigm. It cannot, and neither can vertical. So when I say flat side is wrong, what I mean is that he's wrong to use the word horizontal and in reference to the globe.
Gotcha. He's wrong because he's allowing them to use our stuff, right? Yeah, flat side.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you need to pull up your bootstraps a little bit, because in current times, when people use axiomatic principles like horizontal, they don't get to if they're globetards. Don't use our stuff. They don't have that on a globe, so they don't get to use it. You're saying it'll change? No. Don't give them it. If I could speak. Right, let's carry on.
So your pitch data will show you following a physical curve.
Yeah, he's right about that. So if you were on a ball, the pitch data would show you being on a ball.
The pitch and roll indicators use gyros, and a trait of a gyro is that the momentum of the gyro spinning keeps the gyro pointing in that particular direction.
Okay, so yeah. So in principle, if you're moving around a curved surface, the gyro stays fixed in free space, the plane moves around the gyro.
I.e., if you mount a spinning gyro disc inside a frame that allows for free movement, you can move that frame around as you please, but the gyro disc will always stay in the same orientation. A principle known as rigidity in...
Sorry, he's just destroyed their very argument. Because he's just stated that the cage around the gyro, you can move around all you want, the gyro will hold the same orientation, which is horizontal. That's the one that has created by its rotating movement, right?
Yes.
So
hold your tongue. Just don't jump the gun. You haven't seen this, have you? I can tell.
No, I didn't watch it.
That's right. You're in for a treat.
In space.
Okay.
So put that concept into a plane. If you lay a gyro level in a plane on the ground and then spin it up, the plane can change its pitch angle all it wants, but the gyro naturally will try and remain pointing in the same direction.
Welcome to Flat Earth. Yeah, that's what we see with pitch data. So when he does this, he's describing it because, let's just make a note of the time, 7:47. How appropriate. Go back to the bit where he's covered this just before we came in. He's covering this because of pitch data, right? This is what we use, okay? Well, in terms of pitch, if you're going to be moving with respect to the horizontal plane of reference, it's going to be shown in this data. Yeah, that's why they're addressing this. But yeah, welcome to Flat Earth. The gyro shows its orientation with respect to horizontal for 2 hours of flight in the pitch data. You know it, we know it. So Dave already knows Earth's flat.
Just a second, Nathan. See, I know what Dave's going on about here and where he's going to next. Right? He's going to go to pendulous veins. Now,
you haven't seen it, but you know the game.
I know the game years ago. I've dealt with this years ago. Now, pendulous veins, it doesn't matter, because I know you're going to play it, but I just say it doesn't matter if I say it pre or post. Pendulous veins, the whole purpose of pendulous veins was to stop precession and any movement that may happen with the gyro when it's in something like a fighter jet, right? When there'll be a lot of acrobatics going on. The gyro can be knocked out of kilter, right? Now, the pendulous veins is a vacuum system which basically works kind of like a mechanical accelerometer, where it holds the direction of down, right? Now, down's not a direction, I shouldn't say that, but the vector of down. Sorry, no, that's bad talk from listening to ballers. The vector of down. So consequently, what the whole purpose of the pendulous veins is to add rigidity in space to the already reasonably rigid in space gyroscope. So the parts of the gyroscope, when it wasn't rigid in space, when certain acrobatics happened, right, with an airplane, it's counteracting those. That's all there is. And in a commercial airliner, there is pendulous veins, but they don't hardly have to do anything simply because there isn't a load of acrobatics.
Well,
and anyone who knows about planes
I
know
can add
that.
a caveat there. It's something I'm very boring and geeky that I'm familiar with these things because of what we do here, not because I've looked into it through desire. But no, the reason for the commercial airlines, like as it was on a minute ago, and that was the timestamp 747, right, on a giant jumbo, they're there because if they put those planes into a holding pattern, let me try and describe this in the most dumbed down terms. The cage itself has got a mechanical limitation, and at the extreme end of that limitation, it doesn't matter how much the spinning gyro wants to remain rigid in space if it can't go beyond the physical, mechanical limitations of the gimbal, if you want to call it that, the cage around it, right? Once that gets to its extremes, if the plane then turns 1 degree beyond that, it's going to put the gyro 1 degree off when it returns to level flight. So to counteract this, they have this vacuum system, pendulous vanes, to keep the gyro spinning straight and level when in a holding pattern over an airport for whatever reason in the 747. But the origination of this system is as accurately described by Brian earlier. When you've got aerobatic manoeuvres that are more often than not going to put the gyro beyond its limitations in the gimbal or cage that it's in, then you need something that's going to correct that, as Brian absolutely correctly identifies, to keep more consistency with its rigidity in space. That's the purpose. Now, they're going to do the old switcheroo in a minute, right, Brian? Suddenly the pendulous vanes are there to correct for the ball Earth, or some shit. We've heard it all before. But we'll carry on.
Yeah. Well, what they're actually stating is, and I know there's a bit of a reverb where I am. Sorry, I had to step away from where I was.
You're mumbling.
What they're actually stating, right, is that the pendulous vanes pull the gyro out of its original position. Now, if what they were stating was true, there'd be no need for the gyro. All you would need is a metal plate, right, connected to the pendulous vanes, and the pendulous vanes would pull that metal plate around. Right, all you'd have to do is level it at the start, right, level it, right, and the pendulous vanes would just pull that metal plate around. You wouldn't even have to level it because it'd be already perfect from where go, because it's machined that way. So you'd have no need for a gyro. You wouldn't need a gyro because you're not using horizontal. The whole purpose of the gyro is it creates horizontal. Right? You don't have that on the globe. So I literally could create the very thing that they would need, and it wouldn't have a gyro.
Yeah, it's
There'd be no
great.
gyro. And the pendulous vanes would have to work differently than they actually do.
Gotcha. What you're suggesting is it's not there to reference horizons. It's there because it can maintain a horizontal in free space as the plane moves around the gyroscope, which is incredibly useful in an aeroplane because you might lose visual reference with the horizon if that's what you're using at any given time. So it's very useful to have that principle remain straight and level in an aircraft, right? And it's utilised, and you can demonstrate from readouts how much it drifts, or in the case of the aircraft with respect to that horizontal plane of reference created with the gyro, how much it's nose up, like in pitch data. Right, we're back into the video. Let's go.
Its pitch angle all it wants, but the gyro naturally will try and remain pointing in the same direction. So then measuring the difference between where the disc was relative to the aircraft compared to where it now is can allow you to see how the attitude of the plane has changed.
Right, so given that he's accepting how gyros actually work, watch what happens next. You're going to love this, Brian.
But what flat earthers argue is if you spin a gyro up...
Ignore his stereotype fallacy. He's now describing this, okay? This is Dave's words, not mine.
Inside a plane when you're at a particular location on a globe, at that particular moment, the gyro will be level with the plane's horizontal, but the moment the plane begins traveling around the globe, the gyro...
Uh-oh. So what you're saying, Dave, is as the plane moves around, you'd see its drift with respect to the horizontal plane, and we don't see that, Dave. That's not in the pitch data, Dave. Were you unaware of the pitch data, Dave? Here's the pitch data, Dave. That's not happening, Dave. Dave! Hello? Bosh! Pitch data, Dave. Hello? That ain't happening. What a clown. Well done for absolutely annihilating the garbage spew of nonsense waffle that was spewed by Wolfie. And he's been covering up ever since. Yeah, Ryan? Isn't this all very amusing?
Yeah, it's raised because what's funny about this is that they've tried to completely ignore the pitch data, and then they went off to Antarctica for the TFE, and they tried to make a big thing out of that, and that became a nothing burger. And now they're all having to address the pitch data and try and debunk literally a geometric axiom. Do you know what I mean? It's
Dave.
ridiculous.
Yeah, Dave, why are you even here? Surely, TFE, you've reported on how it was the end of flat earthers. Yeah, you're here addressing our pitch data. Yeah, we slapped Will Duffy around with this originally, did you not know? And now here you are after the final experiment, putting an end to flat earth. You're addressing this. How coincidental. Hey, Will Duffy, isn't this interesting? Yeah, Brian put this to you long before Dave got it, right? Dave, right? You shouldn't even be here. Did it not pan out the way you hoped?
Did Dave pull out the toy plane and the toy globe for his little demonstration in this, or did he leave those?
Yeah, and an acknowledgement of how the gyro would have to move around itself, in the plane if it was moving around a globe Earth, and the principle of a gyro remaining rigid in free space. We'd notice it would be on the pitch data. That's why I just had a good laugh at him. And Brian's going to like what comes next even more. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I just want to throw out the original argument that was thrown out, and it wasn't even an argument; it was just a fact. It's like, well, if that's the case, then what did they do before Pendulous veins? Because they were flying planes for a long time before the Pendulous veins with gyros in them. So what did they do when the Pendulous veins wasn't correcting for the globe then? Do you know what I mean? Now, it's stupid to even say that, right? Because you're kind of half begging the question with them. But it's true. So what happened then? Before Pendulous veins then? Was the Earth flat before Pendulous veins? It's a complete and utter joke. All the Pendulous veins in all the commercial airliners flying at crazy altitude, right, whatever that may be, are all making parallel verticals to each other. Because they're all referencing the same horizontal plane. And no matter what they do. As I said earlier, there'd be no need for a gyroscope if the Earth was a globe, because you wouldn't need to create the horizontal, because it doesn't exist. You don't need it because you're using a circle. You're not using the horizontal. There's no need for it. You wouldn't need the gyro. You wouldn't need the creation of the horizontal. A flat plate with the for the zero connected to a pendulous vein. That'd be all you'd need. There would be no gyro. Gyro would be like for an actual indicator. Just wouldn't be anything. Wouldn't exist.
Quick shout out to
like the sea sextant.
Go ahead.
Just saying, it sounds a bit like the Mariner's sextant. That would it only works because the sea is level and you're working from a horizontal plane on the surface of Earth. That's the only reason it does work.
Just posted in the live stream chat an article on gyros and pendulous veins, courtesy of Bible U, who's also in the chat. Thank you very much for that, Paula.
So a gyroscope proves flat Earth then?
Yes,
they always did.
Well, Nathan, what does the gyroscope create? What's the purpose of the gyroscope, the use of it? The horizontal gyroscope. To create what? Orientation.
Horizontal plane of reference.
And would you need that on the globe?
No, you wouldn't have it. You wouldn't need to reference it. It's completely surplus to requirements. It wouldn't exist. It's like sextants can't exist on a globe. You can't even look at a sextant if you're a glober. Same is true for gyros. They hijack these things and turn them. It's like their greatest defeats. They turn into their proofsies. So in this instance, they can't have gyros. They're not useful. The principles don't have axioms tied to them on a globe. It's ludicrous. They're flat Earth in principle. So what happens to gyros? But devastating that they are to a globe. Well, we'll have a guy called Foucault describe how Earth's turning underneath with them.
Wouldn't it be the other way around though? Like, if they're a globe, wouldn't they have to look at a sextant? Because don't they need a flat baseline to get their globe in the first place? So they would have to have a sextant. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a globe.
But the modern globers are here after reification. They already think they're standing on a curved surface, and then they're measuring from the surface. Well, in their mind, they're telling you about tangents. No, tangents are drawn to a curve. You're not extracting something from a tangent. Now, meanwhile, you are measuring from Earth as a flat plane of reference. You are utilising horizons to establish level. These things are still axiomatic. When you describe deviations from those axioms, you're not going to have the description of the deviation be the axiom, which is what they want. They want horizontal to be bending. That's what the bottom line is, basically. That leaves them in cognitive pain. No other words for it.
No, they want us to consider it bending after using it to create their globe in the first place.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If you've already created it and you think you're already standing on that curved surface, then you're not going to be wanting to use that, because I'll be telling you off. Don't use that stuff. You can believe it as long as you understand that you're measuring a flat Earth. Get on your knees and understand the Earth that you're measuring is flat, and have an appreciation for those facts before getting back up off your knees to then believe that surface you just acknowledged was flat because you're measuring it that way. You can believe it's flat after that fact. But don't use that stuff and utilise it because you've, after the fact, reified a ball into existence. Now, you can't get horizontals, baselines that are flat, angles, any of these things that we describe, heights. None of these things come from a globe.
The plane's local horizontal is changing, and thus we should then start to see a discrepancy in the recorded pitch data.
Now, that's what you would see if you were on a ball. You don't see it in the pitch data because you're not on a ball.
They don't know how gyros work, I think. That's really the big question. It stays rigid in space.
Yeah, but his claim is the gyro auto corrects itself for gravity.
No. You see, we just had that explained by Muggins here, didn't we? There's no auto-correcting gyro. It's just a spinning block of metal. What you been talking about? It's not sentient either. It doesn't know to do things.
And that's why it gives a reference of horizontal, which is him just making a claim. It's just a claim that that's happening. That's not, no, that's false.
Yeah, only if it's been caged prior to spinning up, but there we go. Go ahead.
Yeah, just when you played on there, I thought that was actually Roger Ledwell here. Okay, I didn't realize it was in the video. Yeah, Dave said local horizontal. That is the piss down your back. When you hear that local horizontal, there is no such thing as local horizontal. Right? When they say local horizontal or local vertical, at that point, there's piss running down your back. They're urinating down your back. Because at that point, they're already begging the question that this horizontal is something that can change its orientation. It's local to what? Local to what? To the 1 point on your globe. And then an inch later, an inch in any direction, then that's another local horizontal. You know what I mean? It's absolute ridiculousness. But this is straight away, that's it, that's the slipping it under the door. That's the bait and switch when they throw in local horizontal. As soon as people even pass that point, you're already allowing them to beg the question.
Yeah, there's only one horizontal. It's axiomatic in nature, and any horizontal will be parallel with the plane of the horizon. That principle is utilised daily. It's how Earth gets measured. You can't bend it, and if you did try and bend it, you'll still require a horizontal to describe how much it's bent from it.
The gyro is already set. It's made its reference.
No, you do that. So maybe if it's squared, flat-side, that he doesn't know what a gyro is or what it's doing. You've got it. If it's a manual gyro, there's a little like switch, and it's not. It's just lining up the mechanics, like physically lining them up. It's called. I think the actual word for it is cage. I can't remember this. I'm not using these things, but this is going back 5, 6, 7 years when I last looked at this. There's a thing that you push in, and it physically lines up all of the mechanics around the gyro. So when the gyro, if you imagine a pin going through it top to bottom, and it's going to be, in this instance, specifically this instance, horizontal with respect to that pin that is vertical, you want to line up all of that mechanics of the gimbal and what I'm calling cage in this today's discussion. You want to cage that, and that's what the button's called from memory. You cage it, and it lines it all up so that when it's spun up at that point, very, very fast, it's all in kilter. I don't know what other words to call it, but you cage the gyro, spin it up, and then it gives you a horizontal plane of reference that can be useful once you take off. But you've got to go through that process, because it's just it's an item that we've made, right? It's physical, it's mechanical, it's a whiz bang gadget that we have to do certain things to get it to give us the useful aspects that this spinning hunk of metal can offer. And one of them is to line it all up before you do anything with it. And that process, just to round this out, elongated though it is necessary to point it out. You don't just have a gyro and go, well, there we go, horizontal achieved. You're like, no, have you never seen anybody spin up a bicycle wheel and it's like at a weird angle, but it's going to remain at that bleeding angle when you spin it on the end of your finger? You're like, yeah, well, it's going to remain rigid in space based on how it's been spun up. Well, you need it to be horizontal for it to be useful to the plane flight. Yeah, in case you haven't picked up on it, Globers, I'm so nonchalant about all these things we're saying. We're talking about having an axiomatic principle of horizontal remain consistent throughout the flight for it to be useful and not killing people. Yeah, you're going to need a flat earth for all of this, in case you dickhead Globers that are listening aren't getting a tone of disdain out of my voice while I politely and smiley summarise how a flat earth must be for all this stuff I'm describing. Sometimes they don't respond to anything other than disdain, just for the rest of the audience that don't know why I'm flipping between just general chit-chat banter about how Earth must be flat for this stuff, and then telling off Globers in the same tone. Yeah, it's because they need it. As some of them like it, but, you know, some of them are sadists. What can I do? No, it's not sadists, is it? Some of them are masochists. My bad.
And its reference is based on a three-dimensional spatial space.
Yeah, those are the truest words you've said. If you stuck with that from the start, Flatzoid, the rest of it would have been completely superfluous. The rest of it is hyperbole based on the fact that, yeah, axiomatically you've got horizontal. That goes without saying. You don't have to defend it or argue about it. But the rest of it's Cartesian. That's it. Game over. Earth's flat.
So once you're going and you're flying, it knows up and down, it knows left from right.
However, their claims suffer from a fundamental flaw.
No, dickhead. Are you unaware of your own bleeding graph that you put up? It's not our claim, you stupid, misrepresenting, straw man burning asshole. Hello? Bosh! Pitch data, dickhead! Say to me that it's my freaking claim in my presence. Yeah, I'd be rubbing this in your face, Dave, if you were in my presence, physically. Yeah, my claim? Pitch data! And I'd rub it right in your face, like a physical printed out version. You'd have it right up against your eyeball, dum-dum. It is not a claim. You want to call what the NTSB study, the life and death data you've had up in your own bleeding video, our claim? No, dumbass. This data is not to be taken lightly or described as a flat earther's claim. If I could find it on the scrub. There it is. This is NTSB pitch data. What are you talking about? There's no flaw. And if you say there is, then you are basically speaking ill of the dead, because that is what this data is used for. How dare you assert that there is a flaw in this data? How disrespectful of the NTSB and its life and death studies that they do with it, when you suggest that there's some flaw based on your misapprehension about what you put on screen previously and are now burning as a straw man like it's a flat earth claim. You disgusting human being. You ought to be ashamed.
Sorry, Nathan. I thought you were finished when you said
no, I'm done. I'm done.
No, what's going on here is much more subtle and much more obvious when you stop and look at it. What they're doing is they're trying to pitch data into an argument. Flat earthers claim no. Flat earthers don't claim anything about pitch data.
I got that totally. That's why I'm pouring scorn.
All right.
That's my point. Pitch data. You mean the NTSB life and death data studied when people die in aircraft? Yeah, he's trying to turn that into a misapprehension flat earthers have got, like it's an argument. How disgusting. Yeah, Brian, I totally get that's what they're doing. That's why my tone.
Aircraft gyros don't work like that.
Oh, do they not, Dave? Oh, right. Well, let's see if Dave gets in touch with the NTSB based on this data that he's had up in his own freaking video and tells them that they are wrong. You going to do that, Dave? Oh, is it only when you're burning flat earth straw men that you say that this data specifically, this data on screen now, it was handily in your own video, Dave? It's wrong, is it? All those studies done when people died, wrong, you say? It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
It's true that a typical basic gyro, when spun up, would hold a rigid direction in space.
Yeah, the NTSB rely on it when they study their life and death data that you've had up on screen. This isn't something that you can put in a tone with an upward inflection like some Valley girl that would put it in question when it's axiomatic. And in this data, if I can find it, god damn. There we go. So yeah, Dave, it's pretty much proven it's not like it's going to come into question.
And as it travelled around the globe, its apparent pitch relative to the Earth would change.
No, Dave, we can see that it doesn't. You've put it up on your own screen, unless you're questioning the life and death data of pitch in regards to the NTSB pitch data. I would hope not.
Was that him just concede? I'm sorry, Nathan. Was that him just conceding to where he just made fun of the flat earthers for claiming, but he claimed it's true that that's what it would do?
Yes,
that's what I just heard.
It's the second time he's done it, actually. I don't know if you just joined. He did it previously. But yes.
That's adorable.
But flat earthers are taking this as though they...
Dave, can you stop casting this onto me? Right? I'm not you. These words aren't crossing my lips, dumbass. They're crossing yours. So, yeah, in 2025, that's something else that we're getting a bit... I don't know, what's the word? Irked by. Basically, we've got... What would you call them? Cowards. And when these cowards can't face some of the things that they want to detail with an audience, that would be sharing their pain, they want to project the things that they can't quite fathom onto me. Like it's my misapprehensions about what frigging pitch data is. No, dickhead. When you do this, I don't care that you're pretending it's some other person, third party, to the words coming out of your frigging mouth when what you say challenges the life and death data. So, no, Dave, what you're doing is very disrespectful, and I'm not going to tolerate you suggesting that it's me, a flat earther, when the words are coming out of your mouth. Let's get that clear.
They've just worked out some huge gotcha moment against the globe.
No, it's there in the pitch data. It's not a gotcha against the globe. It's just how the world's got measured. So you see what pitch data as some sort of gotcha against the globe religion that you hold. No, Dave, not all. It's just data. There it is, black and white. Pitch data is used by the NTSB. That's not a gotcha against your stupid globe faith, you utter retard.
As though none of the aviators or aircraft manufacturers for the past several decades didn't think to question how would a gyro account for the curvature of Earth.
No, they didn't need to question it. They're not accounting for it. Whether or not a man questions this data is totally irrelevant. It means nothing. The data is the data. So you're going to say you don't believe the NTSB pitch data because obviously men would have questioned its affirmation of a globe? Why? Why would you suggest that men would concern themselves with such things when they're just using a gyro? That's all they're doing.
Can I respond to some of that? Yeah. First of all, concerning what he's saying, no, what he's trying to do is hijack the pitch data. That's what he's trying to do. They've been at it since the pitch data turned up. They're trying to hijack the pitch data. Right now, that is going to cause them massive problems in other ways that I'm not going to say about publicly because I'm waiting for the right moment in a very public setting to put it all to bed. But anyway, besides that, him trying to hijack the pitch data, it's not helping him. He said, pilots, you think pilots would have asked? No, pilots wouldn't have asked. Pilots just do their job. They just think, oh, the Earth is really big and I just fly a plane and gravity sorts it out or something. Because that's what pilots are told. Gravity sorts it out. So they don't ask questions about it because they just think this gravity thing sorts it. So they do ask the question, they're told that. If they don't ask the question, they're told nothing. They're not told anything. And when he wants to bring up any span of time and a pilot, how come he's not bringing up the 8 years that Wolfie refused to get the pitch data for? And he didn't bring up how Wolfie tried to tell me it would cost 100,000 or more just to get the pitch data. He didn't bring up any of that. It's funny how they never bring up the damning things to do with their own side. Wolfie told me it would cost 100,000 or more, and I had other pilots telling me other figures, not as much as that, but they were still talking about thousands, right? Like commercial pilots. How come he's not bringing up them? How come he's not bringing up the 8 years that Wolfie refused to get the pitch data for? How come he's not bringing up that point? Why did Wolfie not want that data to be out there for 8 years? We all know why.
In reality, this problem with gyros has long been recognized.
So, problem? No, they're very useful for establishing horizontal planes of reference.
And accounted for. For example, here is a US Air Force training video about aircraft gyros from the 1960s, which highlights the problem.
And rigidity in space.
That debunks your principle. Immediately, the first words. Rigidity in space, you say?
All of its practical applications are based on these two properties.
Right. So all of its usefulness is based on having rigidity in space. Yeah, I mean, Dave, did you think I wouldn't notice that you put the devastating bit at the beginning? What dumbass. Hello? Yeah, so that's what they're extracting out of its useful nature then. I bet you absolutely hate us, don't you, Dave? That's why you're covering flat side. Because we laugh at you, Dave.
That's why they have to cover the whole pitch data. Remember how Will Duffy brought it up? Let's talk about this something called pitch data, like as if it was important. Oh, but we already brought our toy globe, and our toy plane to demonstrate this, because it's just this little thing flat earthers want to bring up now. And he's doing the same thing.
Well, he's about to start claiming that the pendulous veins help the gyro to be fluid in space. Because that's what they're claiming, that the pendulous veins don't make the gyro more rigid in space, as in locking it into that orientation, because the pendulous veins are working in the down vector, right? Working in opposition to any precession or any other issues that may happen. He's about to claim, because we all know exactly where he's going, it's the same place he always went, that it's creating a fluid in space situation. So what's the point of the gyro then? What's the point? It's crazy, these people.
ProPlan, high quality nutrition for your cat's lifelong well-being. Developed with Purina Vets. Promotes.
In order for the gyro instrument to be dependable, drift must be corrected continuously.
So, based on it being rigid in space and their need to correct any drift continuously, they're saying that for it to remain useful, it must remain rigid at all times. Okay, we all clear so far? Good video this, Dave. Thanks.
There are several types of erection systems that correct for drift.
Erection systems? Fantastic.
The principle back of all these systems is based...
The erection systems?
...based on 3 steps. The direction and degree of drift are...
I've always said that the direction and degree of drift is important for the erection.
...measured by electrical or mechanical sensing elements.
Mechanical and electrical elements are also important for the angle of the erection.
These elements then control the application of a proper force to the gyro.
force in the gyro is important for the application of the erection. It is true.
And it precesses back to its normal attitude.
Normal? Normal, you say? Normal to be perpendicular to the plane of horizontal? Oh, well, I'll call that normal. I'm going to go with normal. Everyone else here normal? Yeah, we know Earth's flat. That's normal. To be perpendicular to the plane of the horizon. To have a 90-degree erection.
So gyros often use a system called pendulous vanes, where air is blown down the inside of the rotor and exits through slots around the bottom.
Very useful for keeping the erection perpendicular to the plane of the horizon, because that's the axiomatic principle that is useful when using a gyroscope in a plane. And you know what, Dave? I can prove it. I can show the measurements that come from it, because you've got them in your video. They're called pitch data. I mean, you disrespectfully suggested that there was a problem, end quote you, with this data. There's no problem with this data. It's just the data that's produced from people who study life and death circumstances that I would suggest you don't question in future, Dave. You disrespectful mofo.
Yeah, what they're trying to do, and now Dave is joining in on it. Wolfie and Will Duffy tried it, and a few others. Obviously, there's loads of them have tried it online. I've dealt with them. What they're trying to do is make the pitch data a nothing burger. Just like, it just be the same flat or globe. Like, what? The pitch data would be just the same flat or globe. No, it wouldn't be. Just like surveying wouldn't be.
No.
Just like navigation.
Hold on. No. Dave made it clear earlier. Let's just bring it that bit if I can find it as I scrub through the timeline. No. Dave made it explicitly clear that your gyro, in terms of the pitch data and what it would show on a ball, would change. He diagrammatically demonstrated how your plane, there it is, would change around the fixed plane of reference from the gyro. He's already shown it. There it is on screen. Perfect. Managed to find it. So no, Dave says it would change.
Yeah, and see, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. The video is showing us from the 1960s, 1967, I think he said it was, right? Now, it didn't state in that, I didn't hear the guy in that mention, I think I saw that video before, and I don't remember if he mentions pendulous vanes and that. He may bring it up towards the end. But that's towards the end of the 60s, right? 67 is like the late 60s, basically, right? The latter half, right?
I'd call 69 the late 60s, but he was
right, whatever. But before that, then, did the gyro just hold horizontal? Or just hold the one tangent, I should say. Tangent orientation. Because that's not the horizontal. So they just hold the one tangent orientation and they can only fly where? Within a mile.
I'd need to keep up with this nonsense. You're saying prior to, let's call it 68, right? Late 60s, right? Their pendulums, they're cool, man. They know how to remain at a tangent. They're groovy. Now, after 69, then they need a little help. They need the pendulous vanes to keep them on the straight and level. And the straight and level is because of the curve, obviously.
Yeah, well, I mean, before the pendulous vanes, according to what Dave's after saying and shown earlier, the gyros would just hold whatever orientation of the tangent it was at when it took off from the surface of the globe. So that means once you take off, your gyro would have been absolutely useless. Now, I'm pretty sure that they used gyros a good while before 1968. So what was the purpose of them in planes if they didn't have pendulous vanes that can go around the globe?
No.
Not that I agree with that.
No, I've just looked it up.
I'm just saying.
No, it's because they're using much more natural materials. So you know how, like, wood's got a memory and they say that it's still alive if you've got a chopping board? Well, those planes were made out of wood, and as a result, they're kind of sentient, and the gyros in those planes knew that they needed to be tangential to a ball. They didn't need any man fussing and faffing and worrying. That's why you make the planes out of wood. And obviously, since they don't make them out of wood anymore, you've got to put some snazzy electronics and pendulous vanes in to account for all the curvature when you're axiomatically tied to maintaining horizontal, and that's what's useful about you as a piece of technology. that will definitely be groovy and find the tangent planes that we need, Brian, obviously. You're just not thinking about how gyros work as a flat Earth moron.
So you're saying it's a patriarchy issue?
Yeah, there were very loyal gyroscopes back in the 50s and 60s.
Right, so back in the 50s and 60s, before pendulous planes, gyros would just, change their tangent orientation from place to place, no bother.
Yes.
From point to point.
Now you
but
get
once
it.
pendulous, so they became a bit like those gas particles at the Kármán line.
Yeah.
They became rebellious.
Exactly. Yeah. I would suggest there's got to be a little bit of magic sparkly dust, akin to magic beans or a magic mirror. There's got to be something, I don't know, I'm sensing maybe gravity? Gravity could be the reason for this. Anybody with me on that
one? Magic beans of gravity.
Well, they're not magic gravity beans. You've got to plant them first. And you've got to have an old cow to exchange them for. You've got to get the order of these things right for the magic to work. Not just randomly grab them. What kind of idiot Irishman are you with your unicorns and your leprechauns? God damn it! If that was almost humorous.
The worst thing about their claims is what or the best part about, I should say, the best part about all the Globers claims about anything, any topic, is the claim they're making and they all latch onto. They're all so busy latching onto this one stupid claim, right, that they forget the implications of what that claim would mean in the broader sense. Now, there's implications to what's being claimed here by Dave, and it was also claimed by Wolfie and Will Duffy, and being claimed for years. And the implications, they're not thinking about. They just think, we just say this stuff, and that'll make the problem go away.
Don't brush past these things. We covered this, and I remember. I don't forget easily. No. On QE show, it might have been Ballbusters, you pointed out that, let me get the order of these things right. Wolfie 6020 tells his audience that there is a correction made, and then maintains that lie through to denial of pitch data being acquirable for less than 100 plus grand. Because he's got to cover up that lie. So, unless I'm imagining it, you and I had this conversation on one of QE's shows that he was running, and we went through the timeline that must have been the sleepless nights that Wolfie's going through because of his lie that he told when the subject first came to, the surface.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. Do you remember?
Because I showed a video from him years ago. I showed it years ago. He made it in 2016. And when I first started attacking him, basically, some years ago online, the first part of his, I think one of the very first things I showed was him stating that the plane has to pitch down to go around the globe.
Yeah.
And he's showing it with a little toy plane.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah. So he's now going against the very claim he made in 2016. He has to.
Well, should we stay alive a little bit? I need a pair of scissors, Clover. Can you get me them? Or packages?
Yeah, I'll just tell the audience in case they're not aware of exactly what was being pointed out. And you were pointing it out when you first came in, the minute you came in. Was that Wolfie in 2016, there's a video, it was played several times on QEs, and I have it on my video, that he made a video where he was saying, flat earthers say that the plane would have to pitch down going around the globe, he said. And he had a toy plane. He said, yes, of course it has to pitch down a bit. But he said, it's only increments and you do it and blah, 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 blah. But now that's from a professional pilot, playing professional pilot in 2016, right? The pitch data comes out and he's, right, the very thing he wouldn't get for 8 years, from 2016 to 2024, he wouldn't have anything to do with getting the pitch data, right? He never produced it and he was asked about it. And he was I asked him repeatedly, flat side, other people asked him, he wouldn't get it. I was the first, I think, to hound him on it, but other people joined in on it. He wouldn't get it. 8 years. Now, I'm not saying he was hounded for that for 8 years, but he was asked for 8 years for proof that he wasn't producing. Long story short, the pitch data does turn up, right? We get it off a baller, funnily enough, and suddenly he's saying that the plane doesn't have to pitch down. But he's a commercial pilot who was saying it did in 2016. So was he lying in 2016 or is he lying now?
Well, he was lying. He was lying, and he spent the entire time trying to cover that lie. That's the whole point. Exactly. Now rehash that conversation, basically, now, haven't we? So he wants to cover up for 8 years that he's lied about what, presumably, he knew all along would be exposed in the pitch data. Then he puts a price on his own lie. What was it, 160 grand? That's the price on his own lie.
Yeah, because he was saying in his video that the plane pitch has to pitch down to fly around the globe. So the pitch data would have to show that. That was one of the things I was focusing on. And he wouldn't get it. Now that the pitch data has turned up, suddenly the plane doesn't pitch down. So he's lying. He wasn't lying when he said the plane would have to pitch down to go around the globe, but he was lying to his audience when he was giving them or being dishonest to the audience when he was giving them the impression that he does correct for this. Because now he's done a complete 180 and he doesn't correct for this at all. The plane corrects that he doesn't do anything. But he's like, there's no pitch down. There is no pitch down according to him now. But according to him in 2016, there was. So it's a completely contradictory position.
Exactly.
So
That's what
he has been lying.
Exactly. Yeah. We're going around the same thing over and over again. I'm just going to show this because I've done a little unboxing while I've been on mute and you've been explaining Wolfie's trauma. And it's why he presumably keeps dropping me messages via my GoFundMe campaign. So he's got like a little in via GoFundMe and he keeps sending me messages sharing his pain. I don't read any of them. Anyway, this is an Audio Technica, like the one I'm doing the show on now. It's called an ATR 25. I've just unboxed it live for your pleasure. Because I know everyone loves microphones. I've got another one as well. But not show my address. So I'll do that one as well. I don't mind staying live while I do another unboxing. You don't sit on my knife. Unless of course it causes a complete stony silence while I'm doing it.
Well, you're at that point, yeah, but staying live should be to cover the video, not to do an unboxing on something that nobody cares about.
We've done it. We've done it already. Nothing else to cover.
You don't have to announce that you're staying live. Just keep going.
I am.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I've now got unboxing noises because you're being, awkward about it.
Why are you telling everyone you're going to stay live? Just stay live.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to say it, just say, at least say, we're going to stay alive for another half an hour or something. Give someone a timeline to work off of something.
Yeah, because people in, watching the show, they love it. I know when I was just a watcher of the show, I never wanted it to end. You don't have to announce anything. Just keep going, baby.
Hey, Nathan, what about pendulous pains? That's what they're having, isn't it?
You get pendulous pains when you're dealing with elevation ankles.
Yeah, and pitch data.
Pretty sure I know what this is. This is an SM57 copy, I believe. Find out in about 10 seconds.
It's not.
So these son of a guns were afraid of pitch data the whole time.
Yeah, well,
that's
no.
Don't
Stereotype.
Price,
no, don't do that. We can say that about Wolfie because we've got specific examples of him lying about what the plane's going to do, and then
that's everybody.
Why do you have to do that? Why do you have to stereotype? Don't demean what we've just done. We can deal with individuals, right? Wolfie, we can specifically say this, but you cheapen it if you do that. I'm not going to tar everybody with Wolfie's pain. It's just Wolfie.
Yeah, we don't have to do that because Wolfie himself is the commercial pilot. He's their number one commercial pilot. You have other people there who claim to be commercial pilots on their side, but he's their number one go-to, right? He's the guy who spends years basically trolling people. You know what I mean? It got so bad that I had to tell him he's not allowed onto my channel on his alternate account. He has to come on his main account because he stopped coming on his main account. You know what I mean? I don't need your alternate account, you in here trolling. You know what I mean? So Wolfie spent years and years and years basically being an a-hole to people. That's what he did. And, now he's caught out on his big lie.
All right, so we'll say he was petrified, not all of them, but he was petrified of this coming out because he knew better.
I would say he should have been. He didn't think it was going to happen, maybe, or something. But then again, it's naive to think it wouldn't happen. At some point, that's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Once somebody thought of it, I think he probably was never expecting anyone to even look for the flight data. He probably thought we were all so stupid that no one would even consider getting flight data. You know what I mean? Because he probably has a pre-assumption that all the flat earthers were stupid. Because that was kind of his go-to position for a long time.
I don't agree with you there either. No, I think when people, if he didn't care, he wouldn't have gone to the efforts that he did go to. That is to say, people try and cover up their sins, and that his actions suggest to me that he's trying to cover those sins up. Not that he doesn't care. If he didn't care, he just wouldn't care. He would get on with your day, right?
No, I'm not saying he doesn't care. What I'm saying is that I don't think he expected anyone to actually even think of getting flight data. I don't think he was expecting that to happen. I think he probably didn't even think of it himself. He probably never crossed his mind that we could ever get a hold of black box data. As soon as I started asking him for it, that's when the pressure started coming on. Because really, it's really what it was about is the lift effect. You know what I mean? But the lift effect, you know what I mean? It's just like they go hand in hand. Because the pitch data is due to the lift effect. You know, which completely debunks what they're all saying anyway. The lift effect. You can't change your orientation and still. I won't even go into it.
Dude, yesterday I talked to a commercial pilot, and I asked him about like this pitch data thing. Not the pitch data itself, but just like how a plane is supposed to like stay with the globe as it goes so fast. And he said that when the plane gets up like really high, the thickness of the air like changes. The autopilot in the plane automatically adjusts to the altitude because of the air pressure, and that it just like very slightly and constantly adjusts the altitude according with the curvature of the Earth. And I was like, nah, I didn't want to argue with him because he's my friend and we just went out to lunch.
You got to recognise the tools that have been given to you. So, am I on this microphone now? Can you hear me clearly enough? Check 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Yeah.
This is my SM57 clone Sub-Zero. Okay, so I think I am. Yeah, line 1. Okay, so that is not a I don't want to argue with them moment. It's a bosh pitch data moment.
Yeah, I know. I didn't have the pitch data like with me. I should have just boshed it out. Yeah.
Say it. Bosh. Pitch data.
What?
Yeah. It sounds to me like you're.
Oh, you just have to say it. Oh, I see.
Yeah, just say it. Just say it. Exactly. You heard me. How does this mic sound? Does this actually sound good? Should sound good.
It was a little quiet when you said what you last said.
It's a dynamic microphone, and I've got absolutely no control over hand mics. I'm so used to having one that's just static and just covers an area. So when I've actually got to point the damn thing at my mouth, it's not, that's not my forte. So, but does this sound nice? It should sound like an SM57.
Yeah, it sounds pretty nice. I have an SM57, so I'm biased.
Yeah, well, it's just it's the sound of our generation, though. This mic sounds like everything that you've ever heard ever, because almost everything's recorded with this mic. It's not, though, because it's a clone of that mic, but this sound is that sound. It's definitely familiar. I've heard it on lots of comparison videos.
I recognize the sound, yeah.
Yeah, it's an SM57 clone. I only bought this one, right, because I tried to buy an SM57 on eBay, and there are bazillions of Chinese fakes. So I'm like scrolling and thinking, you start off thinking, I'll find an SM57. There's so many sold, original, proper ones, that you'll be able to find one for 10, 15 bucks, right? No worries. No, what you find is thousands upon thousands of Chinese fakes. So I'm like, I'm sick of this. I spent so long doing it, and this is only a cheapy microphone, but I want something that's going to sound like an SM57 because it's designed to, i.e., you just buy the Shure one. No, you can't, because there's no way of telling which is a fake and which isn't, because there's literally thousands. So it was easier to buy a clone, knowing that it would be an original clone. It's not pretending to be a Shure. It's got Sub-Zero written on it. But I know from comparison videos that it sounds just like the Shure. I couldn't tell them apart on the comparison videos. But it was easier to buy this to get the sound than risk getting a Chinese fake, because the market are absolutely horrendous. So many fakes. So many fake Shures.
There's got to be a way to tell a real one from a fake one.
in person, but not when
Probably
you're
by
buying one on
opening it
eBay.
up.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. If I had it in front of me, yes, I've held SM57s and 58s plenty of times to know a fake from a real one. There's a certain feel to a Shure product. I've got one. I've got a Shure, what is it, a Beta 56, something like that. But I knew as soon as I held it, yeah, this is real. It's obvious. But when you're trying to buy it on eBay, you can't do that. So, like I say, I sooner bought a clone to get that sound because I want to see what it sounds like through this room now. It's all treated and it's a proper studio setting, and I'm really enjoying fiddling with mics. It's like there's no point if you're in some horrible reverberant room, but this will sound like every singer you've ever heard ever because they're all singing on stage with an SM58 or an, Guitar Cab's always mic'd with an SM57. This is like that mic that the KGB got involved with to design. It's like absolutely indestructible. You could hammer nails in with this thing, right? Anyway, I'm excited to have one. I'm pleased that it came and it is actually working and sounds good. I'll go back to my other mic.
Yeah, it does sound good.
Yeah, it does. I don't know. I haven't monitored this. I've just plugged it straight in. Anyway, I'm going to change over to my other mic. I can actually do that on the fly. Let's do that.
Stop egging them on.
So this is what I sound
change
like.
it, change it.
That's my regular mic. This is the other one that I'm testing today in Audio Technica. My live audience are looking at me right now. They're like, you bastard, you're actually on camera talking about mics in the middle of a live show. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Anyway, back on the Audio Technica. I'm pleased. I'm pleased these mics work. I've got to sell them. I've got to pay the mortgage. As much as people don't like me talking about microphones, it's like, once the book's done, that'll be a revenue stream and I won't have to talk about microphones anymore. But for now, I do actually need that revenue income to cover the mortgage while we're writing it. So I can't do OMI videos, I can't be making edits, I can't be doing that stuff when I'm sat going through page after page after page with all the people who are kind enough to give up their time for free to allow that book to turn into something. Now, if I allowed the shortfall to suddenly put me under, well, it would all be for nothing, wouldn't it? So rejoice in the fact that I can actually make ends meet by doing things like microphones. If you're moaning, if you're out there watching,
This shouldn't be. That's an awesome idea, dude. Just like being a mic merchant on eBay. That's brilliant.
Yeah, temporarily.
I would want to do that.
I like mics. I like technology and speakers, especially when I was growing up, were my thing of like. And that's now I've got a proper good monitoring system, but I've no longer got any interest in looking into speakers. I know I'm not going to say everything there is to know about them, but a good deal that there is to know about them, to the point where I've no longer got any particular interest because there's nothing to learn for me. Not really. I'm 90% of the information I could ever learn, I've already learned about them. Mics is different. I learned about them a little bit in college when I was learning recording techniques and media and stage lighting and sound. But beyond that, a couple of years in college, I didn't really go back to it. Now, in order to earn a few extra pennies to keep my mortgage paid, I buy them in, and like now, I don't care how much this mic costs. This mic was cheap, right? This is probably a 50 quid retail mic. The Shure version's 100 quid. It's a cheap mic. But I love it. I love playing with it. I love this one that's probably a couple of $100. Doesn't matter, right? Even right up to the Neumanns that cost a couple of grand. All of them are awesome. I wish I could keep them all. That's the only heartbreaking bit about flogging them on eBay. Every time I get one, I'm like, oh, I so want to keep it. Because they're all ace. Anyway, my passion, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'll only be doing it if I'm passionate about it. So if there's something that like you're enjoying my content for, because presumably you're a flat earther, right? This is flat earth debate. And then you hear me being extremely passionate about something that you have no interest in whatsoever, like microphones. It's hard to wrap your head around. It's like, that's people in it. People have different passions. Well, me, I like to have passions. Some people do things they hate. I can never fathom it. You're like, you hate your job? Why'd you do it then? You've got to spend a huge chunk of your life doing it. Why did you do it? I'm like, well, I've got to pay the bills. Can't you pay them with something else? Do something else. Do something you love. Now, I am sure that everyone who's sat there who hates their job is going, oh, it's easy for you to say. Well, no, I've got to become a mic salesman temporarily to make ends meet. Back to the start. Jolly good. Rounded that out without anybody noticing. Did anybody notice that I just talked about mics for a significant period? Maybe not. Ah, you cheek! You ruined that. I felt so good about myself for a few moments. I'm rounding out the live show because that bastard. I don't even care who it was. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels, and I will see you all in the next video.